source, or how are these stories verified, if at all?
I can only talk to people directly and corroborate. Like, for example, one of the cases was linked to, I spoke to people in the community who were all saying, no, they've arrested the wrong people. The two brothers who knew who the right killers were killed themselves because they went to the police with the information. And I've spoken to people in the community, including a man who was told me how he was tortured, tubed. Very scared, very scared. Some people are too scared. I've tried to verify everything. I obviously can't. I mean, how can I check whether they're guilty or not? I can't until the case goes to court. And they're dragging it out. They're dragging these cases out. I've spoken to police, some of the police, like one of the relatives is a policeman who's verified everything that is, you know, and other people who've also kind of experienced that the task team said, well, that's what they do, and this is what. Oh, in the case that Dlamini, the councillor that Dlamini had actually arrested, the charges were withdrawn. So, I mean, that is concrete stuff when charges are withdrawn. I can't verify. I have said to all these people, I've seen stuff they've written, because some of them have actually written stuff to the Public Protector, Justice Department. So that's the best I could do to verify, quite frankly. I want them to talk themselves.
And these court cases, do you monitor them? Are you able
yes,
to
as far as I can, especially the Bagaka case. I've been monitoring that since the very beginning.
Honorable Ngola.
No, thanks, Chair. Chair, the witness has made a concession that there are many Kumalos in the police service and staff. So if we can plead with the witness to be specific when mentioning people's names. If the witness is referring to Mkwanas, there are numerous Mkwanazes. If the witness is referring to Kumalo, there are many Kumalos. So the witness can she please be specific if referring to General Ndlandla Mkwanas, so that it's on record, or General Dumisani Kumalo, so that it's on record. Otherwise, we'll rush after people, wrong people, if this is how we're moving. Thank you.
Do you want me?
Yeah, you may proceed.
Dr. Haas, you heard that. I think you yourself said there are many Kumalos. I think the Mkonazis, thus far you referred to, that's General Mkonazi that you've written to.
Yeah, I've only referred to one Mkonazi as far as I know. Apart from that, there is an investigator, Mkonazi, which should be in the, who's no longer in the police. He's the one who was investigating the alleged interference in the arrest of a convicted drug dealer and trafficker by General Mkonazi. I did think I left a copy of that note there, and he was apparently, the investigator was also called Mkonazi, and he was no longer in the police. I think that's the only other Mkonazi that I personally have come across. So when I say it is definitely General Mkonazi, the person I spoke to after Tabiso's phone was seized was General Dumisani Kumalo. And the other Kumalos, it's quite difficult to know. I think it was a Captain Kumalo, but there's a sergeant one who arrested these Umkomas police. I've probably got it in my notes at home. Yeah.
Perhaps, now that you've mentioned him, perhaps talk to us about Lieutenant General, I think, Dumisani Kumalo.
Okay.
He was the project leader of
the project leader, yes. As far as I know. And I've heard this from more than one source, and it may have even come up in Parliament, because I had a very good friend of mine who's now deceased. It was called, we worked together from the early 90s. He'd also, I think, MK, Philip Mhlongo. Philip was an ANC cadre who then moved to COPE, and then moved, I think, to the EFF. He was representing the EFF in the Portfolio Committee. And Philip told me that he had a call. He was very proactive, the late Philip Mhlongo. And the police had contacted him from Operational Response in Pretoria because General Dumisani, no, he was Brigadier then. Brigadier Dumisani Khumalo was acting head of, he said acting head of ORS, and there was so much trouble in ORS. There was a lot of internal conflict, and he said things getting really nasty because we can't take Brigadier Khumalo's leadership. It's toxic. I don't know what the actual complaint was, but Philip said the members were complaining about him. He said he called Advocate Björkman, who was then the chair of the committee, and he said they had a special meeting about it. Now, I don't know, that should be on record. Philip then told me, look, we decided to move him. We decided to move him because he wasn't the right person to head Operational Response, although I'm told subsequently that he wasn't actually moved. Structurally, he was Operational Response, but project managing for the task team. Philip also said, well, and some other people have told me this since then, he was apparently Operational Response in the KwaZulu Police. Some people say he was a Caprivi trainee, but I have never verified that. You know, it's easy to make allegations like that. But he did apparently, and more than one person says that, he was obviously well trained or trained by the KwaZulu Police in guarding, because he was guarding the king, King Zwelithini. And those of you old enough to remember, was that in the run-up to 1994, there was quite a few dramatic years that I could give you a whole day's story about how the king wanted to assert his independence, but he was being guarded night and day, so I guess Khumalo was part of that. Okay, then he was integrated into after 95, the KwaZulu and South African police were integrated, and one former intelligence operator, who's retired now, said to me, well, he was integrated, and he did a bit of work with statistics and finance in crime intelligence, but he said he was never operational. And then he went back to Operational Response. So what I've heard is that from that time on, with one exception, he was Operational Response, but General Mkhwanazi is correct when he gave evidence to Mdlanga that he moved him. You know, General Mkhwanazi was acting National Commissioner when Clearly was suspended. Former minister, whatever you want to call him, Minister Clearly, was suspended when he was National Commissioner. And Mkhwanazi had to jump a few places. He was so far behind. Everybody was saying, why is somebody so junior? Anyway, he moved Khumalo to a general brigadier then. I don't even know if he was a brigadier at that stage or later promoted. He moved him to crime intelligence. I was told by impeccable sources that his tenure in crime intelligence only lasted a few months because it was a financial scandal. And he was moved out, but the secretary was the one that apparently was fingered in the financial scandal. But I don't know. But he was definitely a few months only. He certainly didn't clean up time in crime intelligence. It was unclean enough for years, and then it got worse, I think, from what they tell me in the last 3 years. So that's all I know about General Khumalo, Dumisani Khumalo, that he had very little intelligence experience and was almost primarily Operational Response for all those years, apart from being a project manager for the task team, which should not involve investigations or intelligence.
According to your knowledge, does he have any detective experience?
No, nothing. I've never heard of any detective experience. I mean, I guess you get basic training of some sort. But look, to be fair, if he was trained in the SAP, the South African police, you see, you've got to remember that back in the early 90s when he would have trained, he may have trained in the South African police and moved to the KwaZulu police. Or he may have been trained, depending on when he joined the KwaZulu Police was formed in 1987. The first commissioner was a notorious white security policeman, known for his his work with Ascaris. Okay, he was the first commissioner in 1987. Now, whether or not Khumalo, now General Khumalo, was trained by the police then, I think he may have been trained by the SA police, if it was before 1987. He may have been trained by the SA police and moved to the KwaZulu police because there was a lot of inducements to get members to move from the SA police to the KwaZulu police, and most of them did not want to. The incentives were quick promotions and all sorts of things. So I don't know at the training he had, that would have been, because the one thing about, with the black SAP, they had the same training as the white SAP, which was quite good in those days. It was just that they were treated completely differently, and they didn't get promoted. Like, you know, in the mid-90s, some of them were coming to me and they were still sergeants, and he said, you know, I've been a sergeant for 20 years, and that man was a general years ago, the white man that I trained with. So that was the way they discriminated. But as I said, the training was essentially pretty good for black police, that in SA police, yeah.
Dr. Das, what qualifications would you require to serve on the PKTT?
You would need to be, okay, this is the way the task teams work that I know of, even when they were established by, you know, for specific purposes. That's the ones I had experience of in the 90s, working in the South Coast, Midlands, North Coast. At which stage, I should also mention, of course, because they do go back a long way, including with the former Minister Clearly, who was the ANC's person dealing with crime and policing before he became the MEC. So they would have known each other for a long time. And General Mkhwanazi himself was trained from the beginning with operational response. In those days, it was called the Stability Unit, but we all called it the Instability Unit. They're the ones that used to go in and raid the homes of the UDF or the ANC people and see if there were any weapons and move them, and then the vigilantes used to move in and attack them. And I think that even, I haven't checked back, I'm very familiar with Shoba Shabani. I also made a statement to the Shoba Shabani Commission, by the way, to the Commission on Police Conduct there, because I was I warned about Shoba Shabani. Okay, so they even went in, I think, and cleaned out Shoba Shabani before the vigilantes went in and massacred people. So they had a bad reputation, but they did probably good training in public order policing, it became afterwards. So, yeah, you asked me about, so I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think along the way that the only training General Khumalo might have had was basic detective training. So when it comes to task teams, there's a very clear structure. And this was in, I think there's a sheet of it somewhere from the 90s. You have a person of a senior rank. Usually in those days it was, well, it's a colonel now because they remilitarized, but it was the equivalent of what is now a lieutenant colonel. And then you would have a captain, and then you would have, say, constables. There was very clear, they were much smaller units, but there was a very clear reporting line from constables to captain to the commander, who would have to be a lieutenant colonel at least. So that's the way the task team works. They were short duration. They would deal with a problem for 2 years, say, and then they'd be disbanded. And they had successes. I mean, the one up the North Coast was stunning. They got high court convictions, and in those convictions it showed that the people who were convicted were still getting helped by the police behind the scenes. They were working with people who were in Inkatha in the latter 90s to incite them to actually instruct, including at the home of a former minister, a former member of parliament called Bheki Ntuli, whom I have known for many years, a trade unionist who's now late. He lost family members in these attacks, and the investigator who'd been with the Goldstone Commission, Vilagazi, was stunningly good. He got convictions for some of those killings in that area. So they were very successful operating with that structure. Now, you ask about the task team. I mean, apart from the first being a brigadier, the brigadier soon left. I said to people who had experience of it, I've had a lot of names of people. They come, they go. I mean, one of them was a constable brought down from Pretoria to investigate these policemen in Umkomaas, and they wondered why he'd been a constable for 20 years. And the lawyer asked him, and he said, "Oh, I'm in a bit of a contestation at the moment with the police." And a person in the police who checked the records found out, oh, no, he hadn't been promoted because he was actually, he had a criminal record. But he was promoted while he was in the task team. I'm just giving that as an aside. Now, after the brigadier left, which was pretty early on, I've said to them, but who are these people who are supervising dockets? You know, you've got to have supervision of dockets by a senior police member. Oh, I think Dlamini told me this because he had basically worked in the team after there was, you know, and he was moved about the time the brigadier went, I think. He said, well, I think what happened is, he said, they've had a few lieutenant colonels come, but they go. And we've had a few captains come, maybe they're doing it. But there's been no, I just want to explain, this is why I had a problem with this. There's no transparency. You can't evaluate because they don't give breakdowns of who these people are they say they've had successes with.
So, Dr. Das, so from paragraph 15 onwards on page 10, you discuss your request for the disbandment of
Yep.
the team, and you had initially complained to then Minister, that this is in 2024, to then Minister Nkunu, and you had also written to Parliament, and that the letter to, there was the letter of the 24th of October, which isn't part of the original bundle, but we have, Honourable Chair made copies available. And it is it's also at page 53 in volume 2 of the annexures. A call for the immediate disbandment of SAP's political killings task team.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, yes.
And the letter also to the Minister of the 13th of November 2024, which is in volume 1 at page 34, MDH 6. So the one of may I refer to the first one on page 53 in volume 2, which is addressed to Minister Nkunu, a call for the immediate disbandment. And in the, you write in paragraph 1, this letter and its 3 appendices is to request that for reasons as set out fully below, you take urgent and appropriate action to deal with the abuses and gross wastage of personnel and financial resources by the irregularly constituted political killings task team. I request that you, 1, instruct the National Commissioner SAPS to immediately disband the irregularly constituted, unnecessary and wasteful political killings task team and send its investigators back to the detective units established provincially and nationally in terms of the SAPS legislation. The National Commissioner must immediately stop the deployment of General Nkumalo, who heads Crime Intelligence, CIS, to this task team, which he did not have the qualifications and experience to command in the first place. Why has he been allowed to occupy these positions, for neither of which he has qualifications at the same time? And that was followed up with a November letter and then the directive of 31 December, which we've now copied to the Honourable Committee. The Minister's Directive deals with three separate items. The first is the filling of posts in the Intelligence Division. The second one, ports of entry. And the third one, the Political Killings Task Team. Now, the Minister Mkhunu, when he gave evidence to the Honourable Committee, mentioned amongst others, he had about 5 or 6 other reasons, motive that informed his decision of 31 December. Your comment?
Well, I mean, I read very quickly through his the affidavit he made. I was particularly interested in what I could gather from the cases he mentioned, which are quite obscure still. But I think he had been, my recollection is that he had been through various procedures. I know there was a media report several months back that General Masemola had actually been told that we couldn't afford to, the country couldn't afford to keep this expensive unit going, and I think my role in this is to say it wasn't necessary because we had perfectly good provincial teams, which I have explained, I've given details to. And I had never in my life, in all the years I've kind of worked with police, we've often cooperated. I've put them in touch with people when they're investigating, including back in the 90s. And I have never in my life heard of a task team running around with members of National Intervention Unit. What the police do, if they have to go into an area they think might be dangerous, they sign for a rifle to take with them in case they come under attack. And here I was getting, I think the first one I heard that were National Intervention was when they seized Tabiso Zulu's phones. And then I heard that regularly the National Intervention Unit is with them. Now, I can tell you, and this is one of my arguments, that at the moment we've got tracking mafias, we've got land and housing mafias invading land which is under interdict by armed men, and there's not a sign, there's no sign of a National Intervention Unit or a public order unit. And they're running around with the task team staying in expensive hotels. I then was told that actually a member who was a captain and promoted to lieutenant colonel, who by the surname of Finn, who's named by people in the task team, is actually cooperating the unit with General Dumisani Khumalo. He's kind of one of the commanders. Now that means then that we have the only people with oversight of a detective team are the National Commissioner, the Provincial Commissioner, the seconded NIU person, and General Khumalo, who's also head of intelligence. Now, that means there's 4 people there who are operational response and not even detectives running a team. I mean, it's just crazy. Absolutely. I've never come across this before. So that was the story of, I did write that letter, yes, and I wrote the subsequent letters. because I was horrified by what I was hearing, and I thought of the expense even then. I would hear, well, who's so-and-so? I'd ask a detective that used to work in the oh, I think he was with us and he's gone and he got promoted now. That's why he's now a colonel. But so I was getting reports from different people. When you put it together, it was all grossly irregular, plus my own experience of, as I said, the way they were running around. And I wasn't just told this by people who were accused, I was told it by families who'd seen them in court. And this year there was even a report, it's not in your bundle, I think, but after the disbandment, the national intervention was still in court for Dlamini's case, I think it was, and others. And they prevented family members from entering the court. I've got a whole lot of statements about it from them. So they were still running around, and that's why then after I sent the initial complaint, and I want to stress I never thought the minister would act. I've never had ministers acting when I've asked them to do things before.
So just before we get there, Dr. Das, did Minister Mngunu respond, reply
No.
to your...
But the letters went through. He never responded. As far as I know, I never got even, but I did send them to his office and they didn't bounce back. So I was assuming that he had received them.
Now, while we talking about Minister Mngunu, can you just reference from paragraph 24 on page 16 to 26 on page 17 any interaction, relationship, contact with Minister Mngunu?
Yeah. I was asked to do this and I want to do it because people are saying it was me who drove it and wrote the letter, which is nonsense. Let me just explain my history. When I was interacting with a lot of ANC people in the early 90s because they wanted to know what was happening, Professor Zulu and I were still producing reports. I've mentioned to you there were specific people, but Senzo Mngunu was not one of them. There was Willis Mngunu, who was a trade unionist, who became the premier of the province, but not Senzo Mngunu, I think, at that stage. And the area he came from, he'd been under threat, I gathered, from... I was working very closely with Roy Ainsley, who was up the North Coast a lot. And he was doing the area that Senzo Mngunu was in, and he was under threat. But it wasn't as badly as attacked as areas I was working, which had a lot of trade unionists in. And he seems to have been in another role. I didn't deal with him then, but I probably met him at some stage. I remember a conversation I had with him in the 2004 elections when he had asked me to supply him with what was happening, problems at polling stations, because in those days, and it was very contested. That was the first election the ANC won in the province. And there was a lot of intimidation, were the police there, were the police doing their jobs? I was phoning him and telling him, well, there's a problem at this station, that station. That was the conversation. He was quite grateful for it. He thanked me. And that's the only connection, the only conversation. I must have met him at some stage because I was always getting asked to do things like, opinions on traditional leadership and all sorts of things. And I must have met him. I probably met him when the ANC won the province. They had a huge gathering there in Paulus and I were at it. Shamila Batoy was at it. There were lots of people at it, and I probably met him then. And, but I don't remember him specifically. But I had his phone number. I had his phone number in a book from years ago. I think a book from the 90s probably, or early 2000s. But when he was appointed minister, and I thought, well, I need to send him stuff now. I can't send it clearly because Clearly was the one that was causing the problems. And I was writing to Parliament about it. And the President, I might have even written to the President at some stage about the problems, especially about Thabiso Zulu, because, of course, Clearly wouldn't give him protection. Anyway, but I then phoned somebody in the ANC and said, have you got Senzo Mngulu's number? And he said, well, here it is. And I found out it was the same number I had in my notebook for many years ago. Okay. So I sent him a text message. And, or it might have even been a WhatsApp, I can't remember. And, but I noticed that with his WhatsApps, he does turn on disappearing messages, so I can't remember what I sent. But I sent him a message, and I said, please, could you give me the number of your PA? I would like to send you copies of letters to the And then after I wrote the letters, I had no contact with him until a month ago. What is it now? End of November? About a month ago, maybe a bit more. I got a call from one of the really good police that I've been working with for a few years. He's based nationally. And he has lots of information. He was in the police for a long time. He gets it. I've noticed a lot of these police get their colleagues' information. He knows a lot. He said, I really need to get hold of Minister Mkhunu. Can you let me know how to get hold of him? I said, well, I don't want to, I never give people's telephone numbers without their permission. He said, it's really urgent. He needs to know this. Okay, so I then phone Mkhunu. This is about a month ago or more. The line is bad. It's not, I'm not hearing him too well. I say, look, I have a policeman who wants to give you information. How should he do it? And he sent me the name in a message. He sent me the name of somebody that I could contact to give the information to, or put him in touch with this policeman. I did phone this, no, I think, I contacted this person and I gave him the information which he said he would pass to the minister. Now, I didn't know the man that I interacted with. So what I did was, to be on the safe side, I sent the information to Advocate Pekole, because I knew he wasn't, I presumed he wasn't anymore in the office of the minister, because there was a new minister by then. But I thought, well, at least he's a lawyer. He was a lawyer for Mkhunu, and then he would make sure he got hold of this police member. Anyway, I then heard from the police member that everything had worked out, and he provided the information, and he thought it might have been followed up. But that was out of my hands. I was just the messenger in that case. And I could assure my policeman contact was actually quite chuffed. He said, no, they've taken my evidence, and I think they're following it up. Anyway.
You can't mention the person's name.
No, I certainly can't. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Look, I can't answer a question like this, and I'll tell you why. I work with a very strict code of ethics. You know, there's a whole history in social science, including under apartheid. The social scientists are used by governments for spying purposes. It was notorious, Operation Camelot in America. And as a result of that, the American anthropologists adopted a very strict code of conduct, which we in South Africa adopted. In 1980, anthropology spread down the middle in South Africa between some of the Afrikaans-speaking universities and the so-called liberal universities, because some of them were doing covert research for the apartheid government. So we had very strict, very, very strict ethics about, I mean, you can only go so far with ethics. You don't know if people are going to listen to it. We had a very strict code of ethics. I do not ever mention sources to people, because that's confidential information, and if that could lend them, and I mean, I give them my word, and that's why so many people trust me. It's an ethical thing with me. I was on a medical ethics committee for years and years and years. I taught a lot of doctors their ethics. I can't mention names that might be traced to people.
So your contact with Minister Mkhunu was quite limited.
Okay, after that, he didn't tell me himself, but I got the feedback from the policeman that had been followed up on. And maybe a week or so, it was about the end of last month, I'm not sure when, Nkunu phoned me. Linked killings. He wanted it for a certain period. He said he wanted to check stuff he'd been given. I said, no, fine, you can have it. Those are not confidential. I mean, I give them to the media if they want them, you know. It's just a work in progress of what I think might be politically linked, which is the only way I can do it. And I mean, I've always said too, some of these I only hear about in the media, and some of them I've told by people who want to report them to me and they don't get in the media. So they're very incomplete.
When did you hear for the first time or know about the minister's decision, or Minister Nkulu's decision?
It was on the 2nd of January. It was circulated in a policing WhatsApp group. There's a guy who was, and he may still be in intelligence, who runs a kind of network among police members. Now, I mean, I want to make it quite clear with this. I don't know who his sources are, but there are obviously some of them that know what's going on, because what he's passed on is stuff I know independently. And sometimes they pass on official circulars, like there's the huge budget shortage. They'll pass on, there was a huge budget shortage early this year, and it coincided with there being no money for petrol to take exhibits. There was no money for food for prisoners at some of the stations, for toilet rolls. There was no money for stationery more recently. And police among themselves were saying, oh, I suppose it's going to the political killings team. Anyway, so it was this group which was passing on, but also other police. For example, there's a couple of retired police who send me stuff because they're still hearing from colleagues, some of them quite senior, that I worked with years ago, and I know they're okay. So it's different types of... But the letter came to me through this WhatsApp group, which was sharing it with everybody at that stage. The 2nd of January it was, I checked back. I was amazed. I was astonished.
Honorable Skosana, I saw your hand was up.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm a bit concerned. You know, the witness says to us that she can't name people, you know, and I would say normally that's News 24. Some of the journalists are doing exactly what she's doing here. Some of the names are named here. There's names which he named here as well. Now, I'm not sure if the witness is protecting, because he made a guarantee to those ones who gave him information. But to some of us, it's like we are gossiping here. For me, honestly speaking, it's like we are gossiping. We're going to go out of here not knowing who are we talking about here. And for me, it's disappointing, Chair. That our witness she's not prepared. And she's making it very clear to us that she's not going to tell us the names. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Matthews. Okay, Honorable Shongwe.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think Ukok Mary should either refrain from giving us information without names, because nameless information cannot assist us anyhow. Where are we going to go with that information to? Who are we going to confront with that information? So maybe for her sake, she can just put the nameless information on the side and give us information with names, if she's not going to give us names. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ngola.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I've noticed that in the evidence of the witness before us is largely reliant to secondary or third sources. So it's largely on information that which the witness has received from someone or some people or this and that. So it is worrying, Chair, that the witness is not willing to reveal the sources, because how do we then put value to the evidence that is adduced before us, and how do we then verify if that which has been testified before us is actually true or false? So it gets worried when the witness is refusing to reveal from whom did the witness get that kind of information. You know, Chair, we have long discussed the issue of names since the first witness. And we will implore with the witness to share with us as much information as she can, because if she doesn't, it means, therefore, as Honorable Skosana says, we are busy here gossiping. Because the statement of the witness is largely reliant on secondary sources. Thank you.
May I respond? I answered a question about my contact with Mkhunu, and I had to explain how it happened. I cannot reveal a source of somebody who might get killed for telling me. I mean, this is an ethical problem, basically. I have to give people my word that I will not reveal it. When it comes, most of what I've told you, I've heard directly from people about the abuses. The prisoners themselves have managed to send emails from prison. Sometimes you can talk to them on the phone. I've spoken to people there. This is first-hand information. All the names I'm mentioning are already on record. Now, if, for example, the General Mkhwanazi or General Khumalo come along and talk about, well, this is what we're doing, they're getting that information from informants, perhaps. They're not telling you the informants' names. The informants would be killed. It's the way I've been doing this. It was part of my training as a social worker. I had to take an oath of confidentiality when I was still a student. I have worked with this for years that I do not, I mean, people know they can trust me. So most of the evidence is people that are already, I'm talking about people that are already named in the media, people who've given evidence. The only names I'm with, I got that letter. You asked how I got the letter. I got it, and it's a letter that we all know exists. I didn't manufacture that letter. And I have made a point elsewhere in this affidavit, only because I was specifically asked to comment about links with intelligence, that not only does the information, some of these are allegations I cannot. I'm making it very clear. Because I'm seeing reports in the media, stunning revelations. These are not revelations, they're allegations until they're examined. And these people, a lot of people are just dying to give their first-hand evidence to the Madlanga Commission. And there's a clause for secrecy in giving evidence.
Honorable James will be followed by Honorable Nomvalo and then Honorable Matthys, in that order. I think they are still not satisfied, Doctor, on the responses that you are giving.
Chair, this is not a storytelling environment. This is not a history class taking us back to the 1980s. Our communities are under siege. Our children are being fed drugs. We are here to get to the truth. Ethics has long left this room and left this country. Long time ago. It's too late for that now. We need names. Anyone that comes here today, we don't know you. You said earlier on, Professor, my people trust me. I don't know you. I don't trust anyone. So please, can we have names here today? And when you get asked a question, Chair, I find that the witness sometimes will get asked a simple question. How did you learn of the letter? And then we must hear about groups where stationery and fuelis complaints are being received. Please, can we stick to the question? Can we give a frank, honest answer? And can we move on and can we get names? We've been listening to this all morning and we've been patient with the witness, but I think time is moving. We don't have a lot of time. Can we please get to the bottom of this now?
Yeah, not before. Honorable James. Honorable James, what is it that you, let's be specific so that we are able to help the meeting to move forward.
Chair, let me give you an example.
Yeah,
When the witness was asked how did she learn of the letter, she answered, she said, via a WhatsApp group, a police WhatsApp group, and members have also been complaining about fuel and about petrol and all of that stuff. The entire morning, whenever she speaks and speaks about her sources, she doesn't reference the name. It's just, she's unable to verify. When she speaks about crime intelligence leader and head of crime intelligence, there's provincial, there's national, she's not specific with names I've picked up. So there's a lot of inconsistencies in her statement. And I think out of respect and sort of one looks, you know, at a lot of things, so you don't want to be too hard, but it's been going on the entire morning. And there's a lot being said here where I can see we're being patient, the evidence leader's being patient with her, but she's not getting to the point, and we are getting derailed.
Okay, did you note the question?
I did indeed. Well, I wouldn't have come here if I'd known that I couldn't withhold people's names for ethical reasons because they might get killed.
Dr. Dihas, did you note the question?
I heard the question about needing to know the name. Indeed, I did. Yeah.
Note that question, we are coming later.
May I explain?
Honorable Nomvalo.
No, thank you very much. Chair, I think the first thing that we need to, as a basic necessity that we need to protect in this house is the decorum. That is number one. When members have asked for an opportunity to make inputs during the course of her testimony, she must wait for the chair after we have spoken, for the chair to give a directive. You don't budge here, Coco. You wait for the guidance of the chairperson, and thereafter you come in, because here we are engaging so that ultimately the chair would give a direction based on the engagements that we have tendered here in a meeting. Secondly, people who have been coming to this committee, including people who are in the higher echelons of the state, have been mentioning names of serious people who occupy serious positions. So we don't understand this story that we are being told here, because it means we are subjected to hearsay. And hearsay is evidence whose credibility relies on another person other than the person who's giving testimony. So it means here you are giving us information whose credibility relies on another person. And this is a fact-finding mission. So if you come with a cold and a silent evidence, how is it going to help us as this committee? Because you give us evidence, we analyze, we dissect, and if there are names in it, we take it further by inviting those people whom you have mentioned in your testimony. So really, Chair, we can't allow to be subjected to gossips. We have no time for gossiping here. We want to deal with real evidence. She must tender real evidence, and if she has nothing to say, she must keep quiet. Thank you very much.
Honorable Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. We asked Professor Mary to be here based on the testimony of the minister. And most of his statement, he submitted the whole report, so her complaint letter, so she's here because a minister told us that one of his decisions on making, or his main decision on why the PKTT was disbanded was because of a complaint that was sent by Professor Mary. So I think that is one of the main reasons that we must have in the fore of our heads on why Professor Mary is here before us. The second issue, Prof, I think you have to also appreciate there's a difference between anthropology, ethics, and also what we are doing here. It's justice. So while we understand, you'd rather not tell us a story if we are not going to have names that are going to be attached. And you can't talk while I'm talking. So let's just take a chill pill a little bit. And it's fine if we don't want to give names. We do understand we are in a very hostile environment and people are being killed. We'd rather not hear the story because it makes us difficult for us to do our jobs as members of parliament. And you can't also roll your eyes while we are talking. We need you, or maybe we must be told, how do we process information on so-and-so said this, there's someone lying in prison, I can't tell names. How do we process it? Maybe that's something that we can do, or you need to tell us, because we are here, we need facts, we need to process information. As my colleague said, there are witnesses that we need to come. We'd rather not hear the story if we are not able to verify that information, because as members of parliament, we are here to execute justice, we are here to do an inquiry. So we need that. If you cannot tell us, give us a name, don't tell us the story. And I'm asking that we do that. And maybe we should also just, Chair, I just try to wrap up. And I mean, I do appreciate that people can be killed and we're going through a very hostile time, but we also can't just listen to stories and there's no way of us being able to verify that information. Thank you.
Honorable Sols.
Chair, I would just urge us as a committee to maintain equal and fair treatment to all witnesses. The terms of reference doesn't say if you don't give names, you must not tell the story. It gives an option to share a name in camera. You can share it in an enclosed setting. So let's treat all witnesses the same. If the, may I finish? So what I'm saying, Chair, is...
Honorable Sols, with due respect, let's take the point of order. I will come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. On a point of order, Honorable Sauls always does this. So now he's trying to say that we are treating witnesses unfairly. No one said that the witness cannot do in camera. So why doesn't he just come here and say, if the witness cannot say names, she must say it in camera. It's simple like that. Don't come here and always undermine us. And it's so unnecessary. And you hold us back here in the committee because you are unnecessary, Honorable Sauls. Just say, let the minister, let the witness do it in camera. There's no problem. Don't throw shade at us and say we're treating witnesses unfairly. It's unnecessary. You are always doing this in the committee and you hold us back as a committee of trying to be progressive. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I will rule on that later. May you conclude your point, Honorable Sols.
Thank you, Chair. I was merely responding to what was stated. The statement that was made was, if you're not going to give names, then don't tell the story. I'm saying we shouldn't do that. We should say, here's the options. We require names. You have the option. If you want to protect your sources, you can, in terms of our terms of reference, say it in an enclosed manner, in camera. And then the other names that you can state publicly, you can state it here. That's all I'm saying, Chair. Let us state it in that way. Let's not tell witnesses if you don't want to say names, then don't tell us the story. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let me do this, honorable members. First of all, let me address you as honorable members. And then the next will be to talk to Professor De Haas. Honorable Sols, you would remember that in the last proceedings, the second last proceedings, when we listened to Advocate Batoy, we had a similar arrangement where we agreed that if there were names that were to be mentioned, we will arrange an in-camera session where where that information will be provided to the committee. And you are very right when you say we must be consistent. And secondly, I want to request Honorable Matthys to attack the facts and not the person. If there is something that Honorable Souls says, let's address ourselves to the facts that he presents or the view that he propagates than to attack him as a person. Because once you say this is what he always does, I think it's ad hominem. You are now, you know, there is this, there was one coach who had a philosophy in football that if you can't dispossess the opponent, you must make sure that there is no possession. The ball must not move forward, and the opponent must also not succeed to move forward. So you must destroy both. So I think I will not agree with the point of order that you have raised, Honorable Matthys. And then, Dr. Dihas, when I listen to these members and when I look at you, I can see that you are a citizen of an advanced age. And then these members are saying to you that they want to respect you as a senior citizen in this country. And there is no there is no intention on their part to be seen disrespecting you or harassing you in recognition of your social status in society and their socialization from where they come from. They come from communities where they have been taught to respect elders. And it will be an ugly spectacle before the eyes of the people of South Africa if you were to be, or all of us here were to be seen on television with a senior citizen like yourself. And the message that may go out there is that those young members of parliament are uncultured. They don't know how to conduct themselves towards the senior citizens of this country. And there may even be an association or any interest group or any citizen acting on behalf of the interest of the elderly who may end up writing to us and say, you invited Dr. Dihas to Parliament, but we don't think that the manner in which you treated her accords a citizen of that social status. So we are cognizant of all that. And we also want to very much admire you for your academic accomplishments. The least we request from you is to go back to the oath that we administered this morning to say, and very respectfully so, if there is any question that is put to you, try your utmost best to respond to it satisfactorily. And that is why sometimes if you observe sitting where I'm sitting, I always check with the members if they are satisfied after asking a question or a follow-up. So where it may be difficult for you to mention a name, you can say, Chairperson, let me, and especially when the day is still so young like this, because if we need to have in-camera proceedings, we must make an application, because Parliament is for the people. You don't just decide now and say, after this meeting, we will have a meeting in camera. If there are names, something that you may have to do upfront and say, in my statement, there is some confidential information that I would gladly like to share with you. But it may not be possible for me to publicly say it in the following paragraphs. So at the end of this proceedings, Chair, you can please favor me with at least 5 or 10 minutes, and I can disclose those details to you. Yeah, I think I have tried to say it in a manner that that brokers peace, in a manner that helps these proceedings to move forward. I'm always saying that when we conduct ourselves, we must not be worried about the technicalities of our arguments and our presentations. What the people of South Africa want to see is the wisdom behind our actions and the statements that we make. Thank you so much. May you please respond to the questions that the honorable members have asked.
Certainly. And I mean, there's very few names I haven't mentioned. I mean, when they're names of police, I can't mention them because they will be persecuted and lose their jobs. They may lose their lives. Let me explain, and it's one of the reasons why I am outraged that we should have a team that focus on a few dozen people that may or may not have been killed for political reasons. I sit in a province, I myself have found myself under surveillance. I have just had to debug my phone without a court order. At the phone, my calls were all getting diverted. I have to watch every move I make because I've made a lot of enemies. This is me. And I don't care about my age. I mean, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mr. Honourable Chair. It's very nice of you. I'm used to robust debates. I really don't mind. But I also need to explain, I see dreadful stuff all the time, not just for politicians. I see people dying and the police doing nothing. And yet we're spending this money on this team. I think it's outrageous, quite frankly, when ordinary people can't get justice, they want closure, they don't get it. I'm speaking here for poor people. You don't even hear about them being killed. They're killed all the time in rural areas. They're trying to defend their land, for example. No one's paying attention and doing anything special for them. Why are we doing something special for politicians? Okay, I've had my say about that. It's in my affidavit that this is one of the reasons I think, why on earth should we now focus on politicians? I mean, there's relatively few people whose names I have not mentioned. I mean, I didn't mention the name of the person I passed the information to, the policeman, because I can't do it without checking if that's okay. But there's another reason here. I mean, it doesn't interfere much with all these people I'm talking about. I mean, I've spoken to them personally, and they also want to go to the Madlanga Commission. They want to go and tell their stories to the Madlanga. This brings me, before I was contacted by Parliament, when the Madlanga Commission was set up, they reached out to me. The Commission reached out to me. I have sent a great deal of information to the Commission. The Commission will contact me through its investigators when they're finished with the process in place now. You know, with Madlanga or whatever else. Okay, they have a team headed by a forensic person, and those are the people that will do the investigations. I appreciate what Parliament is doing. As I said, I've been trying to ask Parliament this for years, to follow up on the complaints about policing and about even the task team. So I appreciate this move. I appreciate your asking me, but if you had said to me, we're going to insist, you must remember, I mean, even I know, I'm not a lawyer, but even I know that you have the right to remain silent in court, even if you're an accused, and I assume I'm not being accused. So I cannot, this is built into me. It's required by an International Association of Human Rights Defenders that I'm affiliated with, Frontline Defenders. You take every step to protect anyone who's vulnerable. And people who give me information that might lose their jobs or their lives by my giving a name are vulnerable. So I would just have to say thank you very much, but I cannot carry on, because don't forget that at this stage we have the Madlanga Commission with specialist investigators. They can check out whether what I'm saying, they can talk to people firsthand. And as I've said to you, people are dying to talk to the Madlanga Commission when they get as far as looking at the task team. So, as I said, I would rather, I came here because I was invited and I thought it was the right thing to do. I gave the answer to this question in saying, I can't tell you the name of the person who wanted to contact Mklunu, because I was asked to give any information I had, which I have done truthfully, about my contact with Mklunu, with Cedric Ngabindi, with Sabia, and with, I was asked specifically by Parliament to give this information, and with Advocate Pakole. And that's the only reason I've done it. I was trying to please Parliament by giving them the information you want. And honestly, honourables, everybody, I appreciate the fact that you are trying to deal with this, and I don't want to diminish my support and my, my pleasure that you have taken this initiative. But I cannot give names, and they're not relevant, because what I'm saying here is that it's not just, in this case it was one policeman that I must protect. In the other cases, these are different people who said things to me independently themselves. It's not just whatever's in a WhatsApp. That's my clarification, and I just want to make it perfectly clear. With the investigations by Madlanga Commission, I cannot reveal some of the information now. I mean, I haven't told you about what I've said to the Inspector General of Intelligence, which supports some of the allegations against people who've been charged, like Khumalo. So, I mean, there's also that. You can't let information out in the public. Well, it's still got to be investigated by people who are trained to investigate, like the people I'm told are with the Madlanga Commission. Sorry, I hope everybody will, and if you don't like what I'm saying because I'm not giving you all the names, then I'm afraid I just can't carry on. I'm sorry about it. I mean, even in court you have the right to remain silent, and I'm doing it only for ethical reasons. I live in a very violent province. I hardly move myself now because I could get killed. So I have to take every step to protect people.
Yeah, no, very respectfully, let me check with you. What are the names that you are willing to give, and what are the names that you are not willing to give?
I'm only giving names that are on public record. I mean, the people I'm talking about are paid by taxpayers. They're police. They're prosecutors. That's public information. It's all in my letters. The only information I'm not prepared to give, and I'm quite honest to say, and I've said it because I was specifically asked about intelligence, these are all allegations. I've heard them in some cases firsthand, not from whatever comes in a WhatsApp group. I've heard them firsthand from people I know, but who have given it to me because they know I won't reveal their information. There's very few, I mean, you're not in a position, I mean, this has got to be investigated because they're allegations. So there are very few names I can't, I mean, like this policeman, I could not repeat his name, the one that said he had the information. He would be at risk. So it's not like there's a lot of names in there that I'm not revealing. I'm saying I've spoken to people, all these people I wrote about in the cases, I've spoken to them personally. I mean, I followed up on my first letter. I spoke to the two lawyers in Cape Town. Their approaches were also in the minister's affidavit. I've spoken to the policemen and their lawyers. I've spoken to some of the lawyers.
Let's move to the next question. Are you, because your first answer is that there are names that you can reveal because these people are public office bearers. You can always reveal those names.
Yes.
And are there names that you will be prepared to reveal in camera?
No, because they are still subject to the Madlonga Commission inquiry, and they have investigators, specialized investigators, I'm told. This is what I try to get done, Honourable Chair. I just want them to get into the hands of the right police, the right investigators, the right prosecutors. I'm not in a position to follow up. I say they're allegations.
So where you base your evidence, or where you have made statements in your written submission to us, based on the information that you got from the sources that you are not prepared to mention.
Yeah, and there aren't
Is
many
it-
of them. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Is it your submission that the committee must not consider that information because it's not substantiated? Because one, you say that even if we arrange in camera session, you will still not disclose the names, or you may decide to exercise your right to silence. So now, what we want to know from you is, you have deposed a statement here with us. Let's say there is a paragraph where you depose evidence that is based on the information you got from Soviet. Then you say, no, I cannot give you the name of Soviet. How does the committee proceed with such evidence? Because if the committee may want to invite Soviet here to come as a witness to come and corroborate the evidence that you have provided here. So it means that evidence must fall off because it's unsubstantiated. Is that how we must understand that?
There's not, can I just explain here, most of what I'm saying is firsthand to me. It's hearsay to you. It's all hearsay to you. Speaking to policemen, speaking to people who've told me about torture, speaking to people who've been charged by the task team, letter after letter to the DPP. It's all on record stuff. The only thing I can't...
But what we are saying here, we are probing allegations.
Yeah.
And when you are appearing before us, remember, you are appearing before us as a key witness. In fact, if we were to speak in terms of motions, if we were to speak in terms of motions, we were going to say that you are a trigger. Because everybody who came here before us, starting with General Mkhwanazi, the minister himself, and former Minister Tele, all of them say there is this letter which was written by Dr. Mary de Haas. And when you read this letter that is written by yourself, you say on paragraph 1.1 that, Minister, I request you that you instruct the National Commissioner of the South African Police Services to immediately disband the irregularly constituted, unnecessary and wasteful political killings task team and send its its investigators back to the detective units established provincially and nationally in terms of SAPS legislation. And this is the letter that you wrote on the 31st of October, 2024. And all the activities that, or all the developments that followed are the ones that put us where we are today. You get it?
Yes.
So the committee is saying to you that Dr. De Haas, before you wrote this letter, there must have been some information that you gathered which make you to arrive at this conclusion that I am now at the pinnacle. I am now at the point where I must write a letter to the minister because maybe the information that I have with me is so overwhelming that I can no longer keep it to myself. Somebody has to know it. And the first person that came to your mind was the minister that you had to write to. And so now, Parliament then, after the decision that you requested, must be made. That decision has been made, then Parliament appoints a committee to investigate the circumstances surrounding the dissolution of this PKTT and the alleged corrupt activities. So I just want you to appreciate the motions that get that momentum after you wrote the letter. You get it?
I do.
And so now, members of parliament are conducting an investigation. They have invited you. And members of parliament say, in our engagement with you, we want to restrain ourselves. We don't want to be seen appearing in a way that does not resonate with the decorum of this house. We don't want to be seen as if we are belligerent. You get it? We want to have a conversation with you and help us to give us information that made you to arrive at a decision like this. If there is anybody who gave you information, you say, this is the information that I gathered. There is a Soviet who helped me to compile this information, but I'm not in a position to publicly mention a name like that one. You get it? So maybe before you respond, because I'm not perfect, I may want to check with honorable members if what I said represents their views. So I'm going to rotate them one by one and hear whether what I'm conveying to you is what they want it to be. Can I start? Honorable Ngolo.
Yes, Chair, indeed, what you have said represents the views of the committee.
Do you have any addition that you want to make to the attention of Dr. De Haas?
Chair, she does not really help because she was given two options. That if there is an information that she believes is too confidential, that an arrangement can be done to allow her to give us in an in-camera setting. But she continues saying, I'm not going to give names publicly, but I think she does not give her response, whether or not she can be able to give us those names in an in-camera arrangement, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say when I raised my hand, I was disturbed by Dr. De Haas, because apparently for her, Madlanga Commission takes precedent over us. It's been mentioned many times. Madlanga Commission that, Madlanga Commission that, which is unfortunate. Hence we said in this committee, we are not accountable to Madlanga Commission. Madlanga Commission is a separate, it's separate from what we are doing as parliamentarians. Parliamentarians here, there's accountability here. You know, whatever happens there is the president prerogative to have the Madlanga Commission established. Everyone, when I mean the executive accounts here, there's a separation of power, and I know the doctor knows that. You know, I'm a bit traumatized about Madlanga Commission, every almost a sentence you made now. That those witnesses would perhaps go to Madlanga Commission. They are allowed to go there. But hence the chair is asking you whether are you willing to do it on camera for us to proceed with this investigation as parliamentarians we are doing to every witness who appeared before us. We are not undermining you. But remember, we are probing, we want to know the truth. You know, we are not a subsidiary to a Madlanga Commission. We are a stand-up committee, as ad hoc committee here. We need to take this to Parliament, which is an ultimate in this country. We are lawmakers. And we heard you, you know, your statement is before us, you know, but hence we want to have a bite on it, to know the truth. There's no ulterior motives against you or anyone or any other witness here. We don't have a hidden agenda. We just want the truth. But if we can't now have the names, it's fine. You must just say that you are not willing. Perhaps we'll adjourn as a committee and take a decision. How are we going to go forward? You know, we do as a witness. But with due respect, there's nothing against you as a person. We just read your statement, and your statement speaks for itself. Thank you, Chair.
Do we still have any member from the MKP who wants to?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Chair, we've been partly covered by what Honorable Skosana has said. But Chair, what we have noted here is the highest level of arrogance of high note. And there is an attempt to reduce the credibility of this committee as if we're a subordinate of a certain commission of inquiry.
Chair, apologies, Honorable Nomvalo. Chair, can you again talk to the witness to stop making gestures when members are submitting?
Yeah,
point.
listen, let's allow Honorable Nomvalo to conclude. We will come back to you to make that point.
Chair, the first witness that appeared before this committee is General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. He mentioned the name of a witness before us in his affidavit, under oath. And even when he was here, he elaborated on why he mentioned her name. The name was also mentioned by the Minister of Police, Minister Senzo Mchunu, under oath, openly so. And she comes here, she's not a police officer. She has no right to protect informants, because it's only police officers with that right to protect informants. She's just an ordinary person with passion of having views on police work. We respect that. But she must not come here and undermine Parliament. This is Parliament, and this is a committee that has been tasked. We're not just doing a normal oversight responsibility here. We're doing an investigation. This is not a portfolio committee. It's an ad hoc committee with specific terms of reference. And at the center of those terms of reference is conducting an investigation on issues that are affecting subs. And she comes here, she tells us about investigators, qualified investigators, who are going to investigate issues in the Madlanga Commission. As if here, by virtue of being members of Parliament, we are not qualified to listen to what those investigators can listen to. So what I see here, Chair, is the highest level of arrogance and lack of cooperation. The witness cannot choose what she can tell us. It was going to be understandable if she was saying, Chair, I am not comfortable with disclosing names here on camera. Can we disclose them when cameras have been switched off? That will be understanding. Now saying, ridiculing the credibility of this committee by saying no because I'm still here to appear in the Madlanga Commission. What is that? Madlanga Commission is not bigger than Parliament. It's an executive decision through the President of South Africa. This committee, the ad hoc committee, is a decision of Parliament. So, Chair, can we not be undermined here, please? Can we not be undermined? There are three options that we have correctly put here. It's either she gives us names here, if she doesn't, off camera. And if she doesn't want to give us names at all, she must not accuse evidence with names which are not disclosed, which are not going to be disclosed. She must just keep quiet and not say that I was told by so-and-so. She must not even go there because we will probe her further. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Ngola.
No, Chair, I was saying I've noticed, which I think Orb Mateus noticed as well, and it continues unabated. The witness, every time a member is submitting, whatever the member is submitting, the witness is making unnecessary gestures. Can you plead with the witness to refrain from that conduct? It's not allowed. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move to the DA. Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we invited Dr. De Haas here, knowing what her evidence would be, more or less. We've heard people refer to what she would talk about, and we know what her background is. We know that she's a researcher. We know that she's an anthropologist. We know that she's a sociologist, and that she has a certain protocol to which she must adhere, and she's told us about that protocol, that she has an ethical standard by which she is bound. If you're doing research as an academic, Chair, you rely on a network of, let's call them informers for want of a better word. As soon as you start naming those people publicly, you'll never have another word from them. She'll be unable to conduct her research. She'll be unable to do her job. She'll be unable to make the contribution that she's making. And it's no different to any of the other witnesses, Chair. We've had many witnesses, and all of their evidence says, well, 90% of the evidence has been hearsay. Nobody has led any evidence before this committee. No one's produced any evidence. We've had a lot of information. Any one of us who thinks that we've heard evidence is deluded. So I don't see what the fuss is about this particular witness. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Cameron. Honorable. Okay. Honorable Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. We aligned with you. I think it's just important that there should be a reminder to our witness that this is Parliament. We are Parliament of the people. The difference between the Commission and this ad hoc committee Prof, is that whatever our findings are here and also what our recommendations are, it's binding. So partly your approach to us and your response to us, I agree that it has been a touch of arrogance there that you may as well pack up and go, and also mentioning the Commission more times than is necessary, and their investigation, etc. And perhaps for the sake of progress, I think we must just get where there are no names that have been mentioned, because I might even tend to agree that it's not tremendously consequential to our investigation on the names that are not mentioned, and we might be going around in circles on something that might not be of grave consequences to the committee. So I think let's get that out of the way, and maybe our evidence leaders can work that out. But I do think it also just set a precedence, Chair, that when we have witnesses here, that they just be conscious, even when we take their statements, if there's information that they feel that is going to jeopardize other people, that it's noted in their statement, and that we have an approach rather than us coming here and then we have to deal with, I can't mention names, etc. It does make our work a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I think we can move in that regard. That's our submission. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Soros.
Chair, we have indulged the witness. We've tried to be fair. You took time to explain our position. We explained that the witness would have an opportunity to share the names with us for our purposes of probing the allegations in an enclosed session. We were fair. I was very disappointed by the response of the witness thereafter. And I take strong exception to hear Dr. Dahas say that if we don't want to, she can leave. Now, it's wrong. It feels like Dr. Dahas is talking down on all of us. We are a legitimate structure. We are a legal structure. And Dr. Dahas has been invited because allegations has been made. We have granted a platform for her to have a right of reply to these allegations and clear it up. Instead of returning the courtesy, we are being spoken down on. And I also want Dr. Dahas to know that even though you were invited on this occasion, and you feel you have the option to decide whether you want to testify or not, Section 56 of our Constitution also empowers the National Assembly, and by extension, ad hoc committees like ourselves, to summons you. And when we summons you, you have no option to opt out except for 2 exceptions, which I'm sure you know. So please do not come across as you are looking down at us and speak with such arrogance. You can just pick up and go. That I take strong exception to. And I want you to be clear that we are not some tuck shop somewhere. We are a legitimate legal institution with power. We are constitutionally empowered to do what we do. So I implore you to show the same courtesy, help us in our effort. If you refuse and you want to go, we will then use our power to summons you back here if we feel that there is information that we want to oblige you to give to us. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable James.
Chair, I think I'm covered by the former speakers. I actually don't believe that the people that Dr. Dahas is protecting would add any value to what we're doing today. I think, if anything, we more wanted to know what prompted her, what prompted that writing of that letter, and sort of trying to persuade the minister to disband the PKTT. I think, if anything, that was the focus. It makes it very hard to even prompt her further. She said what she wanted to say. She's not going to speak. She's not going to share names. And I think the fact that she's a senior citizen today makes it very difficult for me and where I come from and my upbringing. You know, she's obviously has a made-up mind, and we're going to leave it at that. I think, if anything here today, what she has revealed is the poor leadership within our minister. Because in his testimony, one of the things, the driving factors that led him into authoring that letter was Dr. Mary Dahas. So it would have been interesting today for us to hear from her who are those people that was poking and prompting and the whys, but she's not able to tell us that. The focus today is her input towards the minister disbanding the PKTT. She's not willing to tell us, in or off camera. She's made it clear. Where do we go further? Thank you, Chair.
SC.
Chair, our colleague, Advocate Sikalala, had just reminded me that we did caution in advance that calling Dr. Dahas would create this kind of problem, in inverted commas, because much of her evidence or the information that she's sharing with the committee is based